Alright, I was reading another piece of legislature that I think is still in the, is still floating around in the House. This is H.R. 1185 to provide paid family and medical leave benefits to certain individuals and for other purposes. So this is all the way back from February, but I figured it'd be an interesting one to read. As I killed so many trees to print this out, because I'm not going to lean forward and yeah. Okay, a bill to provide paid family and medical leave benefits to certain individuals and for other purposes, being enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled. Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Family Medical Insurance Leave Act or the Family Act. Section 2, findings and purpose. Alpha, findings. Congress finds the following. 1, in more than 2/3 of families with children, all adults in the household work. 43.5 million people provide unpaid care to family members, and 6 of every 10 family caregivers report working jobs unrelated to their care responsibilities. More than half report working full time. An estimated 36 million working age adults live with a family member who has a disability. Without paid family and medical leave, many workers are unable to take time away from work to care for newborn children, parents, and relatives with serious health conditions, or themselves. Both women and men need to be able to take time off work to participate in the care of their children, in the case of seriously ill family members, and to address their own serious health conditions. Yet a mere 17% of civilian workers in the United States have access to paid family leave through their employers, and fewer than 40% have access to short-term disability insurance provided by their employer to use for their own illnesses. And that last part was part 2, by the way. 3. Many workers cannot afford to take unpaid time off work to provide care. According to Department of Labor, nearly half the workers who qualify for leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993 in 2011 were unable to take the leave because they could not afford to take time off without pay. 6 in 10 workers who took partially paid or unpaid leave reported difficulty making ends meet. Half of these workers were forced to cut their leave short due to financial constraints. 4. Only 17% of workers had access to paid family leave in 2017, and it was available to only 5% of the people working in the lowest paying jobs. Workers who lack paid family and medical leave face lost wages or even job loss when they miss work because of their own illnesses or to care for an ill child or parent. In this way, access to paid family and medical leave plays a critical role in families' efforts to maintain employment and economic security. So let me pause right here. So yeah, why the big question is why we have this situation. The quick answer is capitalism. Actually, an even better answer would be greed. We have, I remember back in the 80s there was the whole notion of trimming the fat at companies, trimming the fat to become more profitable, because if you had to maintain a certain amount of profitability, you couldn't just break even or make a small amount of profit. So get rid of the extra people that you don't need, and run as lean as you can. And this is part of this whole stupid mindset came along that really threw us down into the economic shithole that we're in right now. Because back then, the whole idea of it's why do you have redundancy? You have redundancy so you're not dependent on one thing. Tell me a job nowadays where if one person doesn't show up for one day, that shit doesn't go to hell, or it doesn't make life harder on everybody more than it needs to be. It used to be, okay, somebody's out, okay, life still goes on, the business still flows. Now, if somebody doesn't show up for a day, the business is in chaos, and this is a very unhealthy way to run a business. But there are multiple reasons for this. One, you can't, businesses, especially small businesses, can't afford to pay for redundant people, to have redundancy in their people, because people can't afford their services if they charge If they, so if they were going to have redundant people, then they would have to charge more, and then people wouldn't be able to afford the services, and then the business would have a harder time surviving. And this is, a conglomeration of a whole bunch of bad situations that have got us in this trap. Our economy in this trap where, every business basically exists on the verge of disaster anymore. And much of that has to do with deregulation and everything that started back in the 80s with Mr. Teflon. So let's get back to this. Number 5, caregiving has a high value but also comes at a high cost for family caregivers. I can attest to that. And when I was 20, 21, I left work. I was like 21 or 22. I left work to take care of my grandmother who, what's it called? She got sick, and a whole bunch of things went wrong with her, and she came out of all her medical conditions with dementia. So, and it was fairly bad. So somebody had to basically be around her the entire time. So I'd spent half the day with her, a little less than half the day. So it was me, my father, and my aunt. We all took turns taking care of her. My aunt was the only one working at the time. My father, he had to go on. Actually, no, he was on unemployment because he was looking for work and he couldn't find work. God, it's so long ago, can't remember. But it was a shitty situation. We barely had any fucking money, and yeah. So yeah, and it took a lot out of all of us. Caregiving has a high value, but also comes at a high cost for family caregivers. Working families in the United States lose an estimated of $20.6 billion in wages each year due to a lack of access to paid family and medical leave. 6. The estimated value of unpaid family care provided in 2013 was $470 billion. Family caregivers face financial, physical, and emotional hardships, and in many cases, their careers, incomes, and retirement security suffer because of their family responsibilities. Luckily, at the time, for myself, I didn't really have a career. I dropped out of college, and I was working basically dead-end job just to make ends meet. 7. The average worker age 50 and older who leaves the workforce to care for an elderly parent loses more than $300,000 in earnings and retirement income. Working caregivers should not have to risk their family's economic security to fulfill their caregiving obligations. And this is true. I mean, when we talk about, like, universal basic income and minimum wage and all that stuff, we quickly forget how things were a century ago, 2 centuries ago. Almost 2 centuries ago, there was more of a home unit, right? And even a century ago, it was a home unit. If there was somebody that worked and interacted with the outside, with the economy, it was usually one person. It was the father or the husband. And so realistically, and then, of course, you got to figure in, like, single women at the time, having to support themselves. But if you really think back to about a century ago and beyond, it was really only 2/3 of our able-bodied adults that were actually, at most 2/3 of our able-bodied adults that were actually participating in the economy. Another third that were either part of a family unit, or poor, too poor, homeless, whatever. So I think that's a point that a lot of people miss when they talk about, well, why should we have a need for these social services, these social safety nets, and whatnot. It's because by all these different ways, these social safety nets that we used to have don't exist anymore. You could have a home and just farm crops and feed yourself and just sell the little amount you needed to pay your taxes and be fine. But now it doesn't work like that anymore. The way that our economy works has changed so drastically, even in the past 100 years, that a lot of our laws and regulations don't keep up with. Okay, 8. By 2030, 1 in 5 United States residents will have reached retirement ages, and individuals 65 and older are projected to outnumber those under the age of 18 for the first time in the history of the United States. The number of potential family caregivers for each person age 80 and older will fall from 7 to 1 in 2010 to fewer than 3 to 1 by 2050. Additionally, the number of people with chronic conditions is expected to reach nearly 160 million by 2020. I'm one of those people with a chronic condition, but fortunately, I don't need somebody to take care of me. Many of these individuals will at some point require family care, and for older workers still in the workforce will need time off at some points to address serious health conditions. And that's something that I've always had to deal with because of my medical issues. I needed to take a lot of time off from work usually, and there was always a battle between trying to put food on the table and trying to address my medical concerns. Even now I have, I work part time, not really doing anything serious, but even now I sometimes have issues with that. 9. Ensuring working family caregivers have paid family leave to care for seriously ill or injured injured older adult relatives could drive down Medicare costs by decreasing recurrences of ailments and readmittance to hospitals. The implementation of the California's Paid Family Leave Insurance Program, which has been in effect since 2004, accounted for 11% relative decline in elder nursing home usage. Yes, and this is something that's shows that that this is something just fiscal responsibility. There are many people. So we really have to look at kind of like the whole socialism capitalism thing, and like I said, capitalism is part of what drove this to our economic be so bad. And actually, I think a better idea is the whole idea of doing your work now versus doing your work later. Now, many people don't have the opportunity to make the decision. They have responsibilities that have to be met right away. But if you take care of something now, it's going to cost you less in the long run. I mean, this is something I tell the kids all the time. I said, you can either pay your dues now and suck it up for a couple of years, even though it seems like a lot right now, or you can blow things off and you're going to want to be paying for the rest of your life. This is kind of like this is a just something in life that you're not going to be able to get away from. And so if we don't put aside money for people to take care of their health issues, and this is part of why I want a more socialized health system, and why I want it in the way that I want it, where that people have to actually go to their regular checkups and whatnot, to otherwise they pay fines. If you don't address issues earlier, then they become huge problems later. And this paragraph basically eloquently addresses that in a fiscal way, because it's always going to, like I said, it's always going to cost you more later on to take care of something that is now. And again, I say no one's an island, so one person's problems, if they're not able to handle their problems, eventually they're going to become everyone's problems. So by enabling people to take care of their own problems, they stop being everyone else's problems. But back to this. So 10, only half of cancer patients and survivors report having access to paid leave. Only 4 in 10 caregivers of those patients are able to take paid leave to help with completing treatment, managing symptoms and side effects, and caring for their own health. 11, many workers are forced to quickly return to work after the birth or arrival of a child because they have no access to paid family and medical leave. Only half of new mothers take paid leave of any duration after the birth of their first child, and among women with less than a high school education, the figure is less than 20%, a rate that has not changed in more than half a century. Access to paid leave is even rarer for men, just 9% of private sector workers are employed at work sites that offer paid paternity leave to all male employees. 3 out of every 4 fathers in white-collar jobs took 1 week or less of leave after their most recent child was born, and nearly 60% of low-income fathers reported taking 0 weeks of paid time away from work after the birth or adoption of a child. 12. When new mothers have no choice but to return to work without taking leave, children can experience a variety of negative outcomes, including higher rates of infant mortality, lower rates of breastfeeding, and lower rates of immunization. California's paid leave program improved child health outcomes, particularly for economically vulnerable children, and improved breastfeeding and vaccination rates. Now I was going to say something, but I'll put it off until a more applicable time. 13. New mothers without sufficient leave experience a higher incidence of physical and mental health concerns. New mothers with fewer than 12 weeks of leave experience elevated risks of postpartum depression. California's paid family leave insurance program increased the number of weeks of leave a woman can take after their childbirth, with larger effects among women in jobs that do not provide paid leave. New Jersey's paid leave program, which has been in effect since 2009, was strongly associated with improvements in new mothers' physical health. Hey, my state did something right. 14. A gender-inclusive nationwide paid family medical leave program would address persistent sex discrimination and utilization of leave benefits and reduce the disparity between women and men regarding who takes time off of work to fulfill caregiving duties. Yes. Oh, that is... Yes. Very well done. Very well done to have addressed it that way. Because if you only give paid time off to mothers... but let's be honest, though, there are going to be situations where there is still some discrimination because you still have single mothers, and so there is still going to be some discrimination for in that aspect against women, because women are going to be the ones that give birth, and men aren't always going to be there. So, but at least this is a step in the right direction of how to address these issues. 15. Many men would like to be more involved in caregiving and report greater work-family conflict than ever before. When fathers in two-parent opposite-sex households that take paid leave, their involvement in caregiving domestic chores increases, supporting equal co-parenting and making it easier for women to return to the workforce. In California, men's use of state-paid family leave insurance program to care for a new child has more than doubled since the program's implementation. In Rhode Island, which implemented its program in 2014, men took leave at higher rates in the program's first year than other states' programs' first year. 16. Paid family and medical leave promotes family financial security and independence, increases worker retention, and promotes savings for taxpayers. Okay, so this allows me to talk about what I was going to say before. Again, this is the whole putting off expenses and everything like that. And one thing I forgot to say before is that part of capitalism is to not pay any expenses, to make other people pay the expenses. But the problem with that is eventually you're going to have to pay the piper. It's always going to come around to you. And stuff like this is, that's basically what it is. Because you have a lot of companies who decided to promote the deregulation, cutting the fat and running as a lean a business and unstable business as they possibly can, just to make an extra dollar. Well, now this is the natural turnaround of that, where it's caused so much harm to the economy and it causes so much health concerns to future generations that the economy can't function as long as you're putting the next generation in jeopardy. As long as you're not only paying nothing now, but you're making somebody else pay more later. So this is a step towards what we need to do economically as far as how we have our laws and regulations. And again, like I said, you can't have, I've said this in a previous video, capitalism and socialism have to work to support each other. You can't have one run away from the other or try to run away from the other, because the effects are always going to be disastrous. Let's see. In California, men's use of the state's paid family leave insurance program to care for a new child has more than doubled since the program's implementation. Oh no, I read that. Okay, down here. Women who. So let me start the paragraph over. 16. Paid family and medical leave promotes families' financial security and independence, increases worker retention, and promotes savings for taxpayers. Women who take paid leave after a child's. Actually, let me pause one more thing. I've actually told a job that I actually left the job because they were interfering too much in my dealings with my health concerns with the Veterans Affairs. And funny story, I heard through the grapevine that the boss was yelling at my replacements because I made twice as much money as my two replacements combined for the company. So might be a good idea to take care of people who take care of their own personal business as a corporate strategy. Just saying. Women who take paid leave after a child's birth are more likely to be in the labor force in the 9 to 12 months after a child's birth and to earn higher wages in the year following their child's birth. Both men and women who take paid leave after a child's birth are less likely to receive SNAP benefits and other public assistance in the year following a child's birth. Yeah, because they don't. It's okay. That is. It's one benefit in replacement of another. Without paid medical leave, workers who are ill or injured may return to work before being fully recovered, thus making them susceptible to a relapse or reoccurrence and potentially placing additional burdens on the healthcare system. When a job requires physical stamina or ability, the individuals who return to work too early may put themselves or others in jeopardy. This is true. 18. A social insurance model of providing paid family leave pioneered and implemented by the states of California, New Jersey, Rhode Island, New York, and recently passed in the District of Columbia, Washington, and Massachusetts has worked well for workers, their families, and employers. The overwhelming majority of California employers report that the state's program had a positive or neutral effect on their business, and businesses surveyed in New Jersey and Rhode Island reported having little trouble adjusting to the state's law. 19. When workers can care for themselves and their loved ones, employers experience positive impacts. Yes, because if you're going to a fucking job that tries to make your entire life about the fucking job, guess what you don't want to deal with anymore? Your fucking job. There's one thing to do what you love for your employment, but there's another thing to have it consume your life. Your life is... most people's lives are the people that they keep around them, not their job. The job is just something that they do. I mean, let's face it, not everybody gets to do what they like doing. In California, where a family leave insurance program has existed for more than a decade, workers in low-wage, high-turnover industries are much more likely to return to their jobs after using the program, and 9 out of 10 businesses report positive or neutral effects on profitability and productivity. 20. High-profile employees are increasingly recognizing the value of providing paid leave in reduced turnover and improved employee morale and productivity. Yet access to paid leave remains low and across most industries, particularly for low and middle-income workers. Some of the fastest-growing occupations, such as home health care and service jobs, typically pay low wages and are particularly unlikely to offer paid leave benefits. As of 2018, more than 75 businesses and business leaders have endorsed the need for a strong, inclusive national paid leave policy. So when I look at a business model, in general, I look for I go by what I call the tetrahedron of stability. So a tetrahedron is if you ever see a four-sided die, a D4, but basically it's a three-sided pyramid rather than a four-sided pyramid. So what are those three sides? Well, one is growth, one is wow, I haven't talked about this in so long I forgot it. But anyways, not growth. One is damn, how did I have this? Give me a second. So you have, all right, so one is income, one is market share, okay, and not necessarily growth, but it can be growth. It's just maintaining or keeping at least a stable market share. And the third one is maintenance. A lot of people leave off the maintenance, and then so you have this tetrahedron figure with two sides that tend to be really stretched out and one side that does not stretch out at all. And when the winds kick up, that structure topples pretty quickly. So as long as a business model you are devoting fairly your resources fairly to all three aspects, then your business becomes harder to topple when the shit hits the fan. Where the fuck did I leave off? Because okay, 21. Okay, yeah, 21. Californians have filed nearly 2,810,000 paid family leave claims between the implementation of the state's paid family leave program in 2004 and November 2017. In New Jersey, more than 255,000 claims have been filed over the more than 7 years of the program's existence, and in Rhode Island, nearly 34,000 claims were filed in the program's first 3 years. These claims represent valuable care for new children and seriously ill loved ones. 22. Social Security is the nation's primary social insurance system with the most complete record of workers' earnings history. It provides retirement assistance and disability benefits currently, and since its creation in 1934, the programs the Social Security Administration administers have been updated multiple times to reflect the changing needs of the population, families, and the workforce. The system needs to be changed again now, with appropriate investments to meet the agency's needs to reflect today's realities. 23. Yeah, yeah. Realistically, in anything, if you're stagnant or static, you're not doing yourself any benefits. Things change from day to day. Things change, and if you're not a person who's willing to adapt with every new thing, you're probably doing a detriment to yourself. Now, does everybody adapt to everything? No. Do I adapt to everything? No. But you pick and choose your battles. 23. Researchers at Brandeis University estimate that following the enactment of this act, the share of families falling into financial hardships earning below 200% of the family poverty line as a result of taking 12 weeks of unpaid leave would be reduced by more than 81%. 24. Without a national paid leave policy, the United States is missing out on substantial economic activity, which was estimated at approximately $500 billion by the Department of Labor, as women in particular are held back from participating in workforce in equal shares. 25. A national paid family and medical leave program has the support of more than 8 in 10 voters across the demographic and party lines. Bravo. Purpose. It is the purpose of this act, 1, to help working people, including single working parents and workers in dual earner families, afford to take time away from work to provide care for a family member. 2, to provide workers with reasonable level of wage replacement during time away from work for a serious health condition, for the birth or adoption of a child, and for the care of a child, spouse, or parent who has a serious health condition, for the care of an injured service member, for qualifying I don't think I've ever seen that word before. Exigencies arising from the deployment of the service member. I'll have to look that word up. 3, to address sex discrimination, promote the goal of equal employment opportunity for women and men, to promote relief for when employers violate the law, and 4, to accomplish the purposes described in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 in a manner that accommodates the legitimate interests of employers. So, yeah, I rail on big money all the time, the amoeba class, but that doesn't, just because they're, like I said, you're not doing yourself any favors unless you're fighting to protect the same rights of the people you hate, right? And I'm not to say I hate employers, but you got to take that into consideration also. So that's very good. Section 3, definitions. In this act, the following definitions apply. 1. Caregiving day. The term caregiving day means with respect to an individual a calendar day in which the individual engaged in qualified caregiving. 2. Commissioner. The term commissioner means the commissioner of Social Security. 3. Deputy commissioner. The term deputy commissioner means the deputy commissioner who heads the Office of Paid Family and Medical Leave established under Section 4 Alpha. And this is something that, yeah, so just definitions. You see this a lot in bills. 4. Eligible individual. The term eligible individual means an individual who is entitled to a benefit under Section 5 for a particular month upon filing an application for such a benefit for such a month. I'm going to put this off to the side so I remember to look up that word. 5. Initial waiting period. The term initial waiting period means a period beginning with the first caregiving day of an individual occurring during the individual's benefit period and ending after the earlier of alpha, the 5th caregiving day of an individual occurring the benefit period, or bravo, the month preceding the first month in the benefit period during which occur not less than 15 caregiving days of the individual. Okay. 6. Qualified caregiving. The term qualified caregiving means any activity engaged in or by an individual other than regular employment for a reason for which an eligible employee would be entitled to leave under subparagraphs alpha through echo of paragraph 1 of Section 102 alpha of the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, 29 U.S.C. 2612 alpha. So one thing is they are putting limitations on the care days. 14. Self-employment income. The term self-employment income has the same meaning as such a term in Section 211 Bravo of such Act 42 U.S.C. 411 Bravo. 8. State. The term state means any state of the United States or District of Columbia or any territory in possession of the United States. 9. Wages. The term wages, except as such term used in subsection Hotel 2 of Section 5, has the same meaning as such term in Section 209 of the Social Security Act 42 U.S.C. 409. 10. 60-day limitation period. The term 60-day limitation period means a period, alpha, beginning with the first caregiving day of an individual occurring during the individual's benefit period and after the expiration of the individual's 5-day waiting period, if applicable, and bravo, ending with the 60th caregiving day of the individual occurring the benefit period after the expiration of the 5-day waiting period. Disregarding any caregiving day of the individual occurring any month in the benefit period after the first 20 caregiving days of the individual occurring during such month. Okay, definitions are over. Section 4, Office of Paid Family and Medical Leave. Alpha, establishment of the office. There is established within the Social Security Administration an office to be known as the Office of Paid Family and Medical Leave. The office shall be headed by a deputy commissioner who shall be appointed by the commissioner. Bravo, responsibilities of the deputy commissioner. The commissioner acting through the deputy commissioner shall be responsible for 1. Hiring personnel and making employment decisions with regard to such personnel. 2. Issuing such regulations as may be necessary to calculate the purposes of this act. 3. Entering into cooperative agreements with other agencies and departments to ensure the efficiency of administration of the program. So this is all more just standard stuff that you see in these kinds of bills that are trying to establish some kind of branch or office of some type where you're just saying who they're basically describing the hierarchical structure. 4. Determining eligibility for family and medical leave insurance benefits under Section 5. 5. Determining benefit amounts for each month of such eligibility and making timely payments of such benefit to entitled individuals in accordance with each such section. 6. Establishing and maintaining a system of records relating to the administration of such section. 7. Preventing fraud and abuse of releasing such benefits. 8. Providing information on requests regarding eligibility requirements and claims processes, benefit amounts, maximum benefits payable, notice requirements, non-discrimination rights, confidentiality, coordination of leave under this act and other laws, collective bargaining agreements, and employer policies. That was a mouthful. 9. Annually providing employers a notice informing employees of the availability of such benefits. So it's kind of like the things you see at your job, saying, hey, this is a government thing that exists. 10. Annually making available to the public a report that includes the number of individuals who receive such benefits, the purpose for which such benefits were received, an analysis of utilization rates of such benefits by gender, race, ethnicity, and income levels, and 11, tailoring culturally and linguistically competent education and outreach toward increasing utilization rates of benefits under each section. Charlie, availability of data. The Commissioner shall make available to the Deputy Commissioner such data as the Commissioner determines necessary to enable the Deputy Commissioner to effectively carry out the responsibilities as described in subsection Bravo. So the Commissioner's got to give the Deputy Commissioner all the stuff he needs in order to do his job. Not just, okay, I ain't giving you anything, go figure it out. Section 5, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Benefit Payments. And this is, I'm guessing it's going to be the meat of this bill. Alpha, in general, every individual who, 1, is insured for disability insurance benefits as determined under Section 223 Charlie of the Social Security Act 42 U.S.C. 423 Charlie at the time such individual's application is filed. 2, has earned income from employment during the 12 months prior to the month in which the application is filed. 3, has filed an application for a family and medical leave insurance benefit in accordance with subsection Delta, and 4, was engaged in qualifying caregiving or anticipates being so engaged during the period that begins 90 days before the date on which the application is filed or within 30 days after such date. So if you get Social Security, right, if you're paying into Social Security is an easier way to say it, you've worked for 12 months straight, you file your paperwork and you do it in a certain amount of time, you shall be entitled to such a benefit for each month in the benefit periods specified in subsection Charlie not to exceed 60 caregiving days per benefit period. Bravo, benefit amount. 1, in general, except as otherwise provided in this subsection, the benefit amount to an individual is entitled under this section for a month shall be equal to the greater of alpha, the lesser of 1/18th of the wages and self-employment income of the individual for the calendar year in which such wages and self-employment income are the highest amongst the most recent 3 calendar years, or the maximum benefit amount determined under paragraph 2, or Bravo, the minimum benefit amount determined under paragraph 2. So it's either based as a small fraction of your wages, so 1/18th of what you made. So basically 1/18th of what you're expected to make in a year, or some listing that we're going to get to. Multiplied by the quotient, not greater than 1, obtained by dividing the number of caregiving days of the individual in some month by 20. So it's not going to be 1/18th. It's going to be, it may be 1/18th or 1/18th, maybe an 18th of your annual wages or salary, but it might be less than that. 2, annual increase of maximum and minimum benefit amounts. Alpha, for individuals who initially become eligible for family and medical leave insurance benefits in the first full calendar year after the date of enactment of this act, the maximum monthly benefit amount and the minimum monthly benefit amount shall be $4,000 and $580 respectively. Bravo, for individuals who initially become eligible for family and medical leave insurance benefits in any calendar year after such first full calendar year, the maximum benefit amount and the minimum benefit amount shall be, respectively, the product of the corresponding amount determined with respect to the first calendar year under subparagraph alpha and the quotient obtained by dividing the following. So before I get to that, so basically just saying what's the smallest amount a person can get, what's the largest amount a person can get. So by dividing 1, the National Average Wage Index as defined in Section 209 Kilo 1 of the Social Security Act 42 U.S.C. 409 Kilo 1 for the second calendar year preceding the calendar year for which the determination is made. So looking at what you did, looking at the previous year. By 2, the National Average Wage Index as so defined for 2018. So why is it, that's interesting, why is it divided by the wage index for 2018? How is it supposed to, I guess I'll read. But I would expect something to be not so static and a little more fluid. Um, because you have inflation, so that's something that's curious. 3. Limitations on benefits paid. Alpha, non-payable waiting period. Any calendar day during an individual's benefit period which occurs before the expiration of initial waiting period should not be taken into account under this subsection as a caregiving day of the individual. So, just because you're waiting to get money doesn't... You're not getting paid to wait for money, if I'm reading that right. Bravo, limitation on total benefits pay. Any calendar day during an individual's benefit period which occurs after the expiration of a 60-day limitation period should not be taken into account under this subsection as a caregiving day individual. And again, so that's setting 60 days limits. 4. Reduction in benefit amount on account of receipt of certain benefits. A benefit under this section for a month shall be reduced by the amount of, if any, in certain benefits as determined under regulations issued by the Commissioner, as may be otherwise received by an individual. For purposes of the preceding sentence, certain benefits include: alpha, periodic benefits on the account of such individual's total or partial disability under workmen's compensation law or plan of the United States or a state, and bravo, periodic benefits on account of an individual's employment status under an employment law or plan of the United States or a state. 5. Coordination of benefit amount with certain state benefits. A benefit received under this section shall be coordinated in a manner determined by regulations issued by the Commissioner with periodic benefits received from temporary disability insurance or family leave insurance programs under any law or plan of a state, political subdivision, as that term is used in Section 218 Bravo 2 of Social Security Act 42 U.S.C. 418 Bravo 2, or an instrumentality of 2 or more states, as that term is used in Section 218 Gulf of such act of the Social Security Act 42 U.S.C. 418 Gulf. So basically, it's just saying who all has to be coordinated with. Coordination with state plans, and other such things. Charlie, benefit period. 1. In general, except for as provided in paragraph 2 of the benefit period specified in this subsection, shall begin the first day of the first month in which the individual meets the criteria specified in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 of subsection alpha, shall end on a date that is 365 days after the first day of the benefit period. So it means you're covered all year. 2. Retroactive benefits. In the case of an application for benefits under this section for qualified caregiving in which the individual was engaged at any time during the 90-day period preceding the date on which such application is submitted, the benefit period is specified in this subsection shall begin on later of alpha, the first day of the first month in which the individual engaged in such qualified caregiving, or bravo, the first day of the first month beginning during such 90-day period. So basically you have 90 days from the first day you have that you had to take off in order to get your paperwork in a nutshell. And shall end on a date that is 365 days after the first day of the benefit period. Wait. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, alright, let me read that again. In the case of an application for benefits under this section for qualified caregiving in which the individual was engaged at any time during the 90-day period preceding the date on which such application is submitted, the benefit period specified in this subsection shall begin on the later of alpha, the first day of the first month in which the individual engaged in such qualified caregiving, or the first day of the first month begins during such 90-day period. Shall end on a date that is 365 days after the first day of the benefit. Hold on a second, because that's a little confusing. Because from the way I thought it was read before was saying you just have 90 days from when you start taking off to file your paperwork, and 90 days from the first day you take off. but maybe I misread that. Yeah, okay, no. Yeah, preceding the date on which this application is submitted. Yeah, alright. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so basically you have up to 90 days to file from the first day that you took off. Okay. Brain fart. Okay. It happens. Delta application. Application for family and medical leave insurance benefits shall include 1. A statement that the individual was engaged in qualified caregiving or anticipates being engaged during the period that begins 90 days before the date on which the application is submitted or within 30 days after such date, because remember you have a 60 days time. 2. It's qualified caregiving described in the statement in paragraph 1 is engaged in by the individual because of a serious health condition of the individual or relative of the individual. A certification issued by the healthcare provider treating such serious health condition that affirms the information specified in paragraph 1 and contains such information as the Commissioner shall specify in regulations, which shall be no more than the information that is required to be stated under Section 103 Bravo of the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, 29 U.S.C. 2613 Bravo. So basically it's saying that you can't just say, oh, hey, yeah, I took this day off to take care of my sick dad, give me some money. No, you have to have a doctor's note or something saying that, yes, you take off so-and-so, take care, you need somebody there, so forth. And the specifics of it are set by the Commissioner. 3. If such qualified caregiving is engaged in by the individual for any other authorized reason, the certain certification issued by a relevant authority determined under regulations issued by the Commissioner that affirms the circumstances giving rise to such reason, and attestation from the applicant that his or her employer has an attestation from the applicant that his or her employment has been provided with written notice of the individual's intention to take family or medical leave, if the individual has an employer, or to the Commissioner in all other cases. So basically, you need to let people know that there's this condition that you're probably going to have to take time off for. Wow, this is going for a while. Alright. Halfway through. Am I halfway through? Yeah, halfway through. Charlie, ineligibility disqualification. 1. Ineligibility for benefit. An individual shall be ineligible for benefit under this section for any month for which the individual is entitled to alpha disability and social disability insurance benefits under Section 223 of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 423, or a similar permanent disability program under any law or plan of state or political subdivision or instrumentality of a state, as such terms are used in Section 218 of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 418. Bravo, monthly insurance benefits under Section 202 of such Act, 42 U.S.C. 402, based on such individual's disability as defined in Section 223 Delta of such Act, 42 U.S.C. 423 Delta. Or Charlie, benefits under Title 16 of such Act, 42 U.S.C. 1381, yeah, all that stuff. I'm not sure what that means. Etc. Well, I'm pretty sure it means like anything relevant, and all relevancies or whatever. Based on such individual status as this disabled individual as determined under Section 1614 of such Act, 42 U.S.C. 1382, Charlie. So basically, you're only entitled to paid leave as long as you're not receiving some kind of disability income or something. 2. Disqualification. An individual who has been convicted of violation under Section 208 of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 408, or has been found to have used false statements to secure benefits under this section shall be ineligible for benefits under this section for a 1-year period following the date of such conviction. So, don't try to defraud the system. Foxtrot, review of eligibility and benefit payment determinations. 1. Eligibility determinations. Alpha, in general, the Commissioner shall provide notice to individual applying for benefits under this section of the initial determination of eligibility for such benefits and the estimated benefit amount for a month in which one caregiving day of the individual occurs, and as soon as practicable, words are hard, after the application is received. Bravo, review. An individual may request a review of initial adverse determination with respect to such application at any time before the end of the 20-day period that begins on the date notice of such determination is received, except that such 20-day period may be extended for good cause. As soon as practicable after the individual requests review of the determination, the Commissioner shall provide the notice to the individual of the final determination of eligibility for benefits under this section. So if you don't like the decision you can ask to have it reviewed. 2. Benefits payments determinations. Alpha, in general, the Commissioner shall make any monthly benefit payment to an individual claiming benefits for a month under this section, or provide notice of the reasons such payment will not be made if the Commissioner determines that the individual is not entitled to payments for such month, not later than 20 days after the individual's monthly benefit claim report for such a month is received. Such monthly report shall be filed with the Commissioner not later than 15 days after the end of each month. Bravo, review. If the Commissioner determines that payment will not be made to an individual for a month, or if the Commissioner determines that, oh my god, my ass hurts, that the payment shall be made on a number of caregiving days in a month, inconsistent with the number of caregiving days in the monthly benefit claim reporting of the individual for such month, the individual may request a review of such determination any time for the end of the 20-day period that begins on a date notice such determination is received, except that such 20-day period may be extended for a good cause. Again, you don't like the whole review process. Not later than 20 days after the individual requests review of the determination, the Commissioner shall provide notice to the individual of final determination of payment for such a month, and shall make payment to the individual if any additional amount, not including initial payment, to the individual for such a month, which the Commissioner determines the individual is entitled. So basically, if they paid you less than what you thought you should get, you can get a review for that also. 3. Burden of proof. An application for benefits under this section, the monthly benefit claim report of an individual shall be presumed to be true and accurate unless the Commissioner demonstrates by preponderance of the evidence that the information contained in the application is false. Oh, that's a little... yeah. So basically, you have to be believed unless they can prove that you're lying. I mean, I can see both sides of that. So, 4. Definition of monthly benefit claim report. For purposes of this subsection, the term monthly benefit claim report means, with respect to an individual for a month, the individual's report to the Commissioner of the number of caregiving days of an individual in such month, which shall be filed no later than 15 days after the end of each month. And this is just how long like all these reports and everything to the public reports have to be made. 5. Review. All final determinations of the Commissioner of this subsection shall be reviewable according to procedures set out in Section 205 of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 405. Golf. Relationship with state law employer benefits. 1. In general, this section does not preempt or supersede any provision of state or local law that authorizes the state or local municipality to provide paid family and medical leave benefits similar to the benefits provided under this section. 2. Greater benefits allowed. Nothing in this act shall be construed to diminish the obligation of an employer to comply with any contract, collective bargaining agreement, or any employment benefit program or plan that provides greater paid leave or other leave rights to employees than the rights established through this act. So basically, employers can't say, oh, well, we're paying this, so we don't have to pay attention to whatever deal we worked out with the union or whatever. Hotel. Prohibited acts. Enforcement. In general, it shall be unlawful any person to discharge or in any other manner discriminate against an individual because an individual has applied for, indicated an intent to apply for, or received family and medical leave insurance benefits. Non-discrimination. 2. Civil action by an individual. Alpha. Liability. Any person who violates paragraph 1 shall be liable to any individual employed by such person who is affected by the violation. Yeah, so that's one thing you gotta watch out for is those whole like waivers companies get people to sign, waivering their rights to if this act does go through, people waivering their rights to this act, and also the whole arbitration clauses and bullshit. Yeah, don't ever sign arbitration clauses or Don't ever sign arbitration clauses. Don't ever sign a non-competition agreement. Don't ever sign a non-disclosure agreement. Well, non-disclosure agreement may be okay, just depending on what they're telling you can't talk about. I mean, because companies do have the right to protect their intellectual property, but not really the right to say what you didn't like about the place that you worked at, or what you did like about the place you worked at. So yeah, so that's one thing with here. We really need to get rid of these waivers of rights. So 1 for damages equal to the sum of 1 the amount of alpha. Any wages, salaries, employment benefits, or other compensation denied or lost to such individual by reason of the violation, or bravo, in a case in which wages, salary, employment benefits, or other compensation have not been denied or lost to the individual. Any actual monetary losses sustained by the individual as a direct result of the violation, such as the cost of providing care, up to a sum equal to 60 calendar days of wages or salary for the individual. So, yeah, don't fuck over your employees by saying they can't take off or whatever. 2, the interest on the amount described in subclause 1 calculated at the prevailing rate, and 3, additional amount as liquidated damages equal to the sum of the amount described in subclause 1 and the interest described in subclause 2, except if that person who has violated paragraph 1 proves, that's number 1, not Roman numeral 1, proves to the satisfaction of the court that the act or omission which violated paragraph 1 was in good faith, and that the person had reasonable grounds for believing that the act or omission was not a violation of paragraph 1. God, there's a lot of ones in here. Such court may, in the discretion of the court, reduce the amount of liability to the amount in interest determined under subclauses Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2, respectively, and small 2 for such equitable relief as may be appropriate, including employment, reinstatement, and promotion. Okay, so that was all a mouthful. So basically, what it says is that if somebody violates your right to take paid medical leave, if this act is enacted, you not only get entitled to wages, you're also entitled to interest on those wages and any damages that were incurred. So, which I would assume to be like court fees, taking them to court and whatnot. Unless the person violating your rights could provide a good faith argument for why they did so, which would be pretty hard to prove for most cases. Okay. So, bravo, right of action. An action to recover the damages or equitable relief prescribed in subparagraph alpha may be maintained against any person in federal or state court of any competent jurisdiction by any individual for and on the behalf of 1, the individual, or 2, the individual and other individuals similarly situated. So this allows for class action. Charlie, fees and costs. The court in such an action shall, in addition to any judgment, award to the plaintiff and allow a reasonable attorney's fee, reasonable expert witness fees, and other costs of the action to be paid by the defendant. Yeah. Stimulate that peduncle nerve. Stop hiccuping. All right. Delta limitations. The right provided by subparagraph bravo to bring an action by or on the behalf of any individual shall terminate 1. On the filing of a complaint by the Commissioner in an action under paragraph 5 in which restraint is sought, and any further delay in the payment of the amount described in subparagraph alpha, Roman numeral 1, to such individual by the person responsible for subparagraph alpha for the payment, or 2. On the filing of a complaint by the Commissioner in action under paragraph 3 in which recovery is sought of the damages described in subparagraph alpha, Roman numeral 1, owing to an individual by a person liable under subparagraph alpha. So basically, if the commissioner steps in and say, "Hey, wait a second, you don't have to pay this guy," unless the action described in clause 1 or 2 is dismissed without prejudice on the motion of the commissioner. 3. Action by the commissioner. Alpha, civil action. The commissioner may bring an action in any court of competent jurisdiction to recover the damages described in paragraph 2, alpha, Roman numeral 1. Bravo, sums recovered. Any sums recovered by the Commissioner pursuant to subparagraph alpha shall be held in the special deposit account and shall be paid on order of the Commissioner directly to each individual affected. Any sums not paid to an individual because of inability to do so within a period of 3 years shall be deposited in the Federal Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund. 4. Limitation. Alpha. In general, an action may be brought under this subsection not later than 3 years after the date of the last event constituting the alleged violation for which the action is brought. Bravo. Commencement. An action brought by the Commissioner under this subsection shall be considered commenced on the date in which when the complaint is filed. 5. Action for injunction by Commissioner. The District Courts of the United States shall have jurisdiction for cause shown in an action brought by the Commissioner, alpha, to restrain violations of paragraph 1, including the restraint of any withholding of payment of wages, salary, employment benefits, or other compensation plus interest found by the court to be due to an individual, or Bravo, to award such other equitable relief as may be appropriate, including employment, reinstatement, and promotion. Right? So, you can sue people to get your job back if they fire you for taking leave. I forgot to mention that before as well. Okay, India, special rule for railroad employees. For purposes of subsection alpha 1, an individual shall be deemed to be insured for disability insurance benefits if the individual would be so insured if the individual's service as an employee, as defined in section 1 Bravo of the Railroad Retirement Act of 1974, after December 31st, 1936, were included with the meaning of the term, within the meaning of the term employment for purposes of Title II of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 401, and all the other stuff. Juliet, determination of whether an activity constitutes qualified caregiving. 1. Well, this is kind of important too. 1. In general, for purposes of determining whether an activity engaged by an individual constitutes qualified caregiving under this section. Alpha, the term spouse, as used in section 102 alpha of the Family Medical Leave Act, 29 U.S.C. 2612 alpha, includes the individual's domestic partner, and Bravo, the term son or daughter, as used in such section, includes son or daughter, as defined in section 101 of such act, of the individual's domestic partner. So your wife or husband, and the kid that you had with that wife or husband. 2. Domestic partner. Alpha. In general, for purposes of paragraph 1, the term domestic partner with respect to an individual means another individual with whom the individual is in a committed relationship. Bravo. Committed relationship defined. The term committed relationship means a relationship between two individuals, each at least 18 years of age, in which each individual is the other's sole domestic partner, and both individuals share responsibility for a significant measure of each other's common welfare. The term, man, they don't give any account for polyamory in here, do they? The term includes any such relationship between two individuals, including individuals of the same sex, that is granted legal recognition by a state or political subdivision of a state as a marriage or analogous relationship, including a civil union or domestic partnership. Kilo. Oh. Kilo, applicability of certain Social Security Act provisions. The provisions of Section 204, 205, 206, and 208 of the Social Security Act shall apply to benefit payments authorized by and paid out pursuant to this section in the same way that such provisions apply to benefit payments authorized by and paid out pursuant to Title II of such Act. Lima, effective date for all applications. Applications described in this section may be filed beginning 18 months after the date of the enactment of this Act. Okay, so the waiting period before the whole thing, this whole shindig goes on, because they're going to need time to set up the all the offices and everything, and give employers the time to adjust. Alrighty, Section 6, Establishment of Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund. Alpha, in general, there is hereby created on the books of the Treasury of the United States a trust fund to be known as the Federal Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund. Federal Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund shall consist of such gifts and bequests as may be made as provided in Section 201 India 1 of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 401 India 1, and such amounts as may be appropriated to or deposited in Federal Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund provided in this section. Bravo. Authorizations of appropriations. 1. In general, there's authorized to be appropriated to the Federal Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund out of monies in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated. Alpha, for the first 3 fiscal years beginning after the date of enactment of this Act, such sums may be necessary for the Commissioner to administer the office established under Section 4 and pay the benefits under Section 5. So this is all just the how to handle the money part. Bravo, 100% of taxes imposed by Section 3101 Charlie and 3111 Charlie of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 with respect to wages as defined in Section 3121 of such code. Report. That was interesting. Reported to the Secretary of the Treasurer pursuant to the subtitle Foxtrot of such code and determined by the Secretary of the Treasury by applying the applicable rate of tax under such sections to such wages. Charlie, 100% of taxes imposed by Section 1401 Charlie of such code with respect to self-employment income as defined in Section 102 of such code, reported by the Secretary of the Treasury and tax returns under subtitle Foxtrot of such code as determined by the Secretary of the Treasury by applying applicable rate of tax under such section to self-employment income, and Delta, 100% of taxes imposed by Section 3201 Charlie, 3211 Charlie, 3221 Charlie of such code with respect to compensation as defined in Section 3231 of such code, reported to the Secretary of Treasury and tax returns under subtitle Foxtrot of such code as determined by the Secretary of Treasury by applying the applicable rate of taxes under such sections to such compensation. So this is just dotting all the T's and crossing all the I's of where to get the money from. 2. Repayment of initial appropriation. Amounts appropriated pursuant to subparagraph alpha of paragraph 1 shall be repaid to the Treasury of the United States not later than 10 years after the first appropriation is made pursuant to such subparagraph. So basically borrowing money from the... It's saying it's going to borrow money from the what's it called? The budget and then pay it back. 3. Transfer to trust fund. The amounts described in paragraph 2 shall be transferred from time to time to the general fund in the Treasury to the Federal Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund. Such amounts shall be determined on the basis of estimates by the Secretary of Treasury of the taxes specified in such paragraph paid to or deposited into the Treasury. Proper adjustments shall be made and amounts subsequently transferred to the extent prior estimates were inconsistent with the taxes specified in such paragraph. So, Charlie, management of trust fund. The provisions of subsections Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, India, and Mike of Section 201 of the Social Security Act for USC 401 shall apply with respect to Federal Family Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund in the same manner as such provisions apply to the Federal Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund and Disability Insurance Trust Fund. So, it's saying they're going to treat this the same way as treat other things from Social Security Act. Delta, benefits paid from trust fund. Benefits payments required to be made under Section 5 shall be made only from Federal Family Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund. So, don't pay for benefits from some other fund. Echo administration, theirs are authorized to be made available for expenditure out of the Federal Family and Medical Leave Insurance Trust Fund, such sums as may be necessary to pay the costs of the administration of Section 5, including startup costs, technical assistance, outreach, education, evaluation, and reporting. Foxtrot, prohibition. No funds from the Social Security Trust Fund or appropriated to the Social Security Administration to administer Social Security programs may be used for family and medical leave insurance benefits or administration set forth under this Act. So no commingling of funds. Section 7, Internal Revenue Code Provisions. Alpha, in general. 1. Employee contributions. Section 3101 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended. Alpha by redesignated subsection Charlie as subsection Delta. And Bravo by inserting after subsection Bravo the following. In quotes, Charlie, family and medical leave insurance. 1. In general, addition to other taxes. So this is basically modifying the tax code. And what it's going to say in there. In addition to other taxes, they're hereby imposed on the income of every individual tax equal to the applicable percentage of the wages as defined in 3121 alpha received by the individual with respect to employment as defined in 3121 bravo. 2. The applicable percentage. For purposes of paragraph 1, the term applicable percentage means 0.2% in the case of wages received in any calendar year. So what would be paid? So what would be paying through the insurance? 0.2%. So if you're making $20,000 a year, that would be $40. Yep, $40. Yeah. And then that ends the insertion quote, or the insertion part. 2. Employer contributions. Section 3111 of such code is amended alpha by redesignated subsection Charlie as subsection Delta, and Bravo by inserting after subsection Bravo the following. Charlie, family medical leave insurance. 1. In general, in addition to other taxes, there is hereby imposed on every employer an excise tax with respect to having individuals in his employ, equal to the applicable percentage of wages as defined in section 3121 alpha, paid by the employer with respect to employment as defined in 3121 Bravo. 2. Applicable percentage. For purposes of paragraph 1, the term applicable percentage means 0.2% in the case of wages paid in any calendar year. So if you make $20,000 a year, that means you pay $40. Your employer pays $40. That doesn't seem that bad to me. 3. Self-employment income contribution. Alpha, in general. That was the end of the insert part. So 3. Self-employment income contribution. Alpha, in general, section 1401 of such code is amended. 1. By redesignated subsection C as Charlie as subsection Delta, and 2. By inserting after subsection Bravo the following. Charlie, family medical leave insurance. 1. In general, in addition to other taxes, there is hereby imposed on for each taxable year on the self-employment income of every individual a tax equal to the applicable percentage of the amount of the self-employment income for the amount of the self-employment income for such taxable year. 2. Applicable percentage. For purposes of paragraph 1, the term applicable percentage means 0.4% in case of self-employment for any taxable year. So so the net payment is the same no matter who it is. It's in the case of self-employment, you're paying 0.4% of what you're making for a year. In the case of you're working for somebody else, then you're paying half that. Your employer's paying half of that. So for every worker, it's the same percentage ultimately. Okay, Bravo. Exclusion of certain net earnings from self-employment. Section 1402 Bravo 1 of such code is amended by striking tax imposed by section 1401 Alpha and inserting tax imposed by subsections Alpha and Charlie of section 1401. So it's something you can't be exempt from if you're self-employed. Bravo, the Railroad Retirement Tax Act. 1. Employee contributions. Section 3201 of such code is amended. Alpha by redesignating subsection Charlie as subsection Delta, and Bravo by inserting under subsection Bravo with the following. Charlie, family and medical leave insurance. 1. In general, in addition to other taxes, there is hereby imposed on the income of each employee a tax equal to the applicable percentage of the compensation received during any calendar year by such employee for services rendered by such employee. 2. Applicable percentage. For purposes of paragraph 1, the term applicable percentage means 0.2% in case of compensation. So it's 0.2% again. Employee representative contribution. 3211 of such code is amended. It's basically doing the same thing as in regular. So everyone's doing the same thing. So this part's all pretty boring. It's basically just all, so that's amending for the employers. This is making so you can't exempt. Effective date. The amendments made by this section take effect 120 days after the date of enactment of this act. Section 8, and we're getting close to the end here. Regulations. The Commissioner, in consultation with the Secretary of Labor, shall prescribe regulations necessary to carry out in this act. In developing such regulations, the Commissioner shall consider the input from a volunteer advisory body, volunteer advisory body comprised of... shut up, phone. Volunteer advisory body comprised... yeah, that's one. Who the fuck are you calling me? That's two. And I don't know why anybody calls me. Okay, there we go. So, so let me start over. The Commissioner, in consultation with the shut up. The Commissioner, in consultation with the Secretary of Labor, shall prescribe regulations necessary to carry out this act. In developing such regulations, the Commissioner shall consider the input from a volunteer advisory body comprised of not more than 15 individuals, including experts in relevant subject matter and officials charged with implementing state, paid family, and medical leave insurance programs. The Commissioner shall take such programs into account when proposing regulations. Such individuals shall be appointed as followed. 1. 5 individuals to be appointed by the President. 2. 3 individuals to be appointed by the Majority Leader of the Senate. 3. 2 individuals to be appointed by the Minority Leader of the Senate. That's not looking good so far. 4. 3 individuals to be appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And 5. 2 individuals to be appointed by the Minority Leader of the House of Representatives. Well, I just lost a whole lot of faith in this bill. Section 9, the Gao Study. Not later than 3 years after the date of enactment of this act, the Comptroller General shall submit to Congress a report on the family and medical leave insurance benefits paid under Section 5 for any month during the 1-year period beginning on January 1st, 2021. The report shall include the following. 1. Identification of the total number of applications for such benefits filed for any month during such a 1-year period and the average number of days occurring in the period beginning on the date on which such an application is received and ending on the date in which the initial determination of eligibility with respect to the application is made. 2. An identification of the total number of requests for review of initial adverse determination eligibility for such benefits made during such 1-year period and the average number of days during the period number of days occurring in the period beginning on the date in which such review is requested and ending on the date of which final determination of eligibility with respect to such review is made. 3. An identification of total number of monthly benefit claim reports for such benefits filed during such a 1-year period, the average number of days occurring in the period beginning on the date in which such a claim report is received and ending on the date in which the initial determination of eligibility with respect to the claim report is made. 4. An identification of the total number of requests for review of an initial adverse determination rating to a monthly benefit claim report for such benefits made during such a 1-year period and the average number of days occurring in the period on the date in which such a review is requested and ending on the date which the final terms of eligibility with respect to each review is made. 5. An identification of any excessive delay of the periods described in paragraphs 1 through 4 and a description of causes for each delay. So this is just being able to look at it and make sure it's all working properly. So it started off as a very good. Well, it started off as a very good bill. For the most part of it, it seems pretty up and up, straightforward, and good to go, except for who's appointing the advisory council. Yeah, but it is what it is, I guess. So there we go. An hour and 20 minutes of reading a bill.